All right, so it's been 50 days plus since the beginning of this Russian invasion of Ukraine. Many lives have been lost. Ukraine is putting up a defiant fight against this Russian invasion. Russia has characterized this whole thing as a special military operation because, according to the way Russia sees it, they feel that their security interests are being threatened by an ever-expanding NATO. Ukraine, of course, sees this, and legitimately so, many would argue, as an invasion or an infringement on the territorial integrity and sovereignty of an independent nation. But countries around that region and, in fact, in the wider world have been forced to take a position on this Russia-Ukraine conflict. And one country which is caught in the middle of this intense war that is going on between Russia and Ukraine, not least because of what is happening there over the last few weeks, but also there are some fundamental changes and realignments that are expected to happen in continental Europe going forward. One country that finds itself, if I may say so, in an unenviable position is the country of Finland. And joining me now is the Honorable Ambassador of Finland to India, Her Excellency Ritva Koku-Ronde. Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking with us. First things first, like I said, it's been over a month and a half now since this Russian war in Ukraine began. What is your assessment of how things have panned out so far and how they're likely to play out over the next few days and weeks? Do you see an end to this anytime soon?
Of course, Russia's invasion to Ukraine has altered the European security environment, and including Finnish security environment has changed really considerably. And we are, of course, not at the moment in Finland facing any direct military threats, but at the same time, Finland condemns strongly the Russian aggression and attack on Ukraine. Finland is one of the countries, together with very many European countries and actually 141 United Nations countries who are condemning Russian aggression in Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign, independent state where which Russia has violated. Russia has violated international law and all agreements we have agreed since 1990s. So therefore, we are also very seriously looking in Finland what kind of impact this has in our security environment in the region, and a little bit larger as well in various fields of society. The government was actually ordered an assessment about our changes on our security environment, which was published last week, Thursday. And it is also in English, by the way. If you are interested in reading on that, we are assessing the security environment, but in a broad sense of the security, meaning also of what kind of impact this will have in economy, etc. So this is the situation at the moment, and our parliament this assessment has been given by the government to the parliament, and it will be discussed in the parliament at the moment, and what kind of steps thereafter Finland should take in order to safeguard our security. We have Finland's security and defense policy is built traditionally in a very strong national defense capability, and therefore also on safeguarding the nation's room for maneuver and keeping different options open. And we have for a long time, for instance, kept an option on possible NATO membership, for instance, as one of the options if needed. And this is...
I wanted to ask you about that because there's been a lot of chatter recently about both Finland and Sweden and possible NATO membership. Do you believe that because of Russia's actions in Ukraine over the last few years, as a country, and maybe even Sweden to some extent, is being perhaps escalated on the path towards NATO membership? That Russia has not given you much of a choice, with the actions that they've taken in Ukraine, that NATO membership of Finland and maybe even Sweden is only a matter of time. It's inevitable. Do you reckon that?
According our assessment, this Russian invasion to Ukraine and the impact of that is long-standing. As you know very well, we have very strong economic sanctions at the moment, and of course they don't disappear either very quickly. And furthermore, of course, the Ukrainian situation, the war is still going on, and we don't know yet when it ends. And at the same time, of course, we see the destruction of Ukraine day after day. So there will be a very strong campaign on restructuring Ukraine when Russia stops this aggression. That is one thing, but this is a long haul impact what we will have, and therefore of course we are looking all aspects in our society how we can be in the future also at least as resilient as we are at the moment, but even taking into account that we have a neighbor who has been breaking all the commitments and international law. So there is a lot of missing trust. And normally the relations between the countries and especially with the neighboring countries are also built on trust, because in practicality when you have a neighbor like we 1,340 kilometers border, there are practical issues daily which you have to manage. Cross-border traffic or some of the environmental issues, etc., etc. So you need to have this practical cooperation, whatever happens. But one of the issue, of course, is the security. And indeed, when you look opinion polls in Finland during the past weeks, Finnish citizens are feeling very strongly. Together we are stand with Ukraine, and we are feeling very strongly the Ukrainian pain. We are trying to assist Ukraine in humanitarian aid. We have been receiving Ukrainian refugees. We have been giving military aid, and of course Finland is a member of the European Union, so we are jointly with the European Union doing our best on helping Ukraine in this very, very hard situation. At the same time,
you were talking about public opinion in your country and how it's entirely with the Ukrainian people and the suffering that they're undergoing. I'm also curious to know about public opinion in Finland and how it's changed over the last few weeks on the question of NATO membership. Are more or a majority of Finns now open to the idea of NATO membership than it was, let's say, 6 months ago?
The opinion, according to the opinion polls, there has been a dramatic change. When we had about 6 months ago, maybe 25-30% of the population were in favor of Finnish NATO membership. Now it is very close to 70%. And most probable, there has been always in the opinion polls earlier that when the president of the republic or the prime minister are arguing, for instance, or showing the way and their opinion, that will increase even the popularity in this subject. At this moment, we are at the stage that both the president of the republic and our prime minister have been saying that they listen first the parliamentary discussion and how the parliamentarian political parties are really what kind of assessment they will have and what their suggestions for the further steps. But our prime minister, for instance, she has been already saying that she is publicly that there is most probable there will be that Finland will assess the NATO membership in favor, and there will be a relatively speed process from our parliamentarian part. But of course, this is a process also And we understand also that that is up to the NATO countries to decide whom they want to have members. We feel in Finland that we will bring value added to the NATO because we have a very strong defense system. We have very strong comprehensive security system in Finland, and we are already interoperable with NATO. We have been exercising with NATO already a long time, and we have been participating in NATO-led operations in some peacekeeping functions.
You must have seen the statement from the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov when there was this news about both Finland and Sweden possibly considering NATO membership, and he said there will be military and political consequences. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, I would say that this was not the first time we have been hearing from East some assessment to our situation or some opinions. So it didn't surprise us. We have heard it earlier as well. We are pretty informed of the situation, what is on the other side of the border also. So this is one of the areas which Russia has their military bases in north, south, and in the middle. So that doesn't either surprise. We have also seen some violations of our airspace earlier. We have had various sort of cyber attacks, hybrid way of influencing, so it doesn't surprise us as well. And we are also looking forward that there will be this kind of activities in the future as well, so they won't stop there. Of course, we are independent country, sovereign country. Finland makes her own independent decision what kind of alliance we want to be, who are our friends in the neighborhood. We are military non-aligned, but we are non-aligned country because we joined the European Union 1995. So it was a clear decision that we are part of the European Union with all dimensions, and with all dimensions there is also European Union security dimension. So we are making independent decisions. We are closely cooperating with Sweden, especially with this lately, really almost daily. We are closely cooperating and also exercising, by the way, military with the other Nordic countries. Nordic countries are very dear friends with us. And we are having close cooperation with UK, with the United States of America, and of course with our European partners as well.
I wanted to know from you, do you find yourself, and I guess both for Finland and Sweden, this is applicable, in a bit of a dilemma, the same way Ukraine found itself in. It is a non-NATO member. Therefore, it doesn't have the security umbrella or the security guarantees that come with being a NATO member. And therefore, we're seeing the attack by Russia and the fact that Ukraine is having to do much of the fighting, although the weapons and the military aid is coming from the US and other NATO countries. And yet, at the same time, if Finland and Sweden were to actually actively pursue NATO membership, you could again risk inviting the kind of hostilities that Russia has unleashed on Ukraine. So how do you resolve this catch-22? It's damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Of course, like I said, every country make own decisions, and every sovereign country make own assessments also of the security situation. Of course, in ideal world, it would be really very good to have good and friendly and trustful relations with all your neighbors. But unfortunately, it's not always possible. And if you look Finnish history, it hasn't been always possible. We were having a bitter war, winter war in 1939, 1940, and then a continuation war until 1944 against Soviet Union, and we lost 1/10 of our area. We were paying war debts until 1956 to the Soviet Union. I am a daughter of displaced person. My father and my grandfather and grandfathers lived in very near to St. Petersburg, 50 kilometers west, and they lost everything at that time. So at the same time, there has been friendly relations also. We have had economic relations with Russia. We used to have with Soviet Union also during the Cold War. But this is not, Ukraine history is not the same than the Finnish history. And the difference here is that not only the history, but Finland is a member of European Union as well. We have been independent country since 1917 as well. We have built our own society as well. So there is different history which is not comparable. But I think at the moment it's very right to say that history is now what we are having, and we have to assess our decisions now, and therefore our government is now assessing what kind of arrangements will make our security. How do we enhance our security also tomorrow and day after tomorrow? And according to the assessment, the very good alternative would be to be a member of NATO.
So one interesting thing, I mean, you told us about the history, and from 1917, you've been an independent country. Of course, from about the 1809, 1808 till 1917, you were part of the Russian Imperial Empire, after which you were an independent country. And after World War II, and you gave a personal history of your father and your grandfather, and how they were involved in the war against the Soviet Union. But from 1948, when the peace treaty was signed, all the way up until I think 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed. And this is true for Finland as much as it is true for other countries as well. There were certain security guarantees, or there were certain clauses that were given to ensure that Russia's security interests will not be infringed upon as they see it. With the collapse of the Soviet Union and with the moving towards the West, whether it is Finland, Sweden, other countries, maybe to a lesser extent even Ukraine over the last few years, do you feel that has spooked the Russians, and what can be done to correct that? Because what is happening now seems to be, at least that's the Russian narrative, they seem to be portraying this as, they were literally going to have NATO forces at Russia's border, therefore Russia had to attack. So if Finland and Sweden were to join NATO, wouldn't that same logic be extended to your two countries as well? And how do you counter that?
Well, like you said, it is a Russian narrative, which we don't agree. And actually, the narrative doesn't have either historical base in, if you think about, and if you are looking about the after the collapse of the Soviet Union, we were having various sort of arrangements in security in Europe, on which Russia agreed at that time, whether it was Budapest Agreement, whether it was the Paris Declaration, etc. Right. So the narrative has changed a little bit also from Russian side from the 1990s. And at this moment, of course, one can argue, if you are looking particularly of the Finnish history, we were eastern part of Sweden almost 700 years. And after the arrangements in the northern part, then we were autonomous duchies of Russia 100 years, with our own parliament, our own democratic system, our own money, our own institutions. So we made immediately chance. We took our chance 1917 during the Russian Revolution that we declared ourselves independent, and therefore very many countries agreed with that and declared actually supported us. And then this Second World War, or actually our separate war, even with the Soviet Union, simply started in the same way. Like in Russia, that Russia attacked, Soviet Union attacked, they wanted piece of land for their security. But of course, earlier with the German Soviet Union Ribbentrop-Molotov agreement, then Soviet Union and Germany divided Europe with their interest spheres. And we were at that time in the Soviet interest sphere. We don't believe on interest spheres at all. It's a Cold War terminology, which we have already agreed in 1990s in various sort of security agreements that this is history, and we don't agree that some country has power to the others on decide what the other country wants. We really believe on these independent sovereign countries, and so does the 141 countries in the United Nations as well, who were condemning directly the Russian aggression.
All right. But one final word: how do you see this this war in Ukraine? How do you see this ending? Do you see this ending anytime soon? We were also hearing reports that Putin has given a deadline of May 9th, which is Victory Day, V-Day in Russia, to end the operation, maybe with some limited success in eastern Ukraine. How do you see that ending? And once it ends, what may be the path for countries like yourself and maybe to a lesser extent Sweden?
Well, I would only personally hope that this would end today. The key is on Russia's side to end this insane aggression, which is every day causing many deaths, loss of lives, misery, and really destruction. So the sooner the better. Russia is withdrawing. The world is really can breathe, and Ukraine can start rebuilding their society. But we have, unfortunately, like I said, that I am also a daughter of displaced person. This kind of war and aggression takes a long time to heal, unfortunately, and at this time it will take as well. And we have to assess, after Russia has withdrawn, we have to assess what are the next steps. If you are looking Finnish situation, we are of course, and Europe, we are reorganizing our energy, for instance, energy needs. We are disconnecting our energy from Russia. We are continuing our sanctions with Russia so long as it is necessary. Of course, there are difficult questions, for instance, of who is paying what in reconstruction of Ukraine, to mention one, and how do we do it? We have already from European Union side and individual countries as well confirmed that we will be strongly involved with assisting Ukraine in rebuilding their country again, and we are strongly supporting, of course, Ukrainian EU membership when they are ready and when we are starting the real negotiations as well. I hope that things are calming down really sooner than later.
All right, Ambassador Britt Ronde, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Sweden. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.